a lot of people are saying in the exit polls that they the top issue is the state of democracy. And the idiot pundits at MSNBC think that that means that they are Democrats. And they may be right. But a lot of people, I think that this is a resonant issue for a lot of people, is the censorship. So many people use social media that online censorship is a resonant issue. And the Democrats have been ferociously pro-censorship. Do you think that, I mean, what do people mean when they say democracy in the context of this election? And do you think this is an issue like I do, the First Amendment? And I guess I would also add, Kamala says Trump has an enemies list, but she has a to-do list, but it's pretty obvious they have an enemies list too.
So I don't know. I'd have to do some interviews or read some interviews of people who saying that in the exit polls. I can tell you what I think it means. What I think is that when people say, democracy, and what I've been saying on my show for over a year, which I started saying to Cornel West, is that if you don't think what they're doing to Donald Trump, meaning Russiagate, meaning 2 impeachments. Let's remember they impeached him for pausing a shipment of arms to Ukraine, right? The one thing that you want to vote for him for, they made it illegal. The 92 felony indictments. I tried to impress upon Cornel West that the reason why if they could do this to Donald Trump, a former president, they'll do that to you as soon as you become a bit of a threat to the machine, just like they're doing to the Stop Cop City protesters. They use the exact same RICO statute, the exact same grand jury to indict Donald Trump that they used to indict the Stop Cops. So so that's what I think they mean. And you're right. I bet it is censorship. People know, young people know how you have to say things online to make it past the censors. We're living in what I grew up thinking what Soviet Union was, or what the communist China is. That's what we're living through right now, and I think people do know that. And then they demonize anybody, even like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is also censorious, right? He bends the knee around the world to people, including in the United States. But he's a lot better, he provides a certain amount of more freedom of speech than the other social platforms do. And so for that, just like Donald Trump, the establishment loved Donald Trump my entire life. They gave him his own network television show, and Hollywood gave him Emmy nominations, right? And Oprah Winfrey said she wanted to run for office with him. They all kissed him when he came on The View. The same thing with Elon Musk. Everybody loved Elon Musk because he was fulfilling the agenda of the climate change, and he was creating electric cars. And then as soon as he said, hey, maybe we should have free speech, they're like, no, that guy's bad. Hitler, bad guy, the dictate, all that stuff. Same thing they're doing to Donald Trump. So I think maybe you're right when they say democracy is number one. I don't think it's exactly what MSNBC thinks it is, just because they've repeated it over and over that democracy is on the ballot, which is a lie. Democracy is not on the ballot. What's on the ballot? Kamala Harris did not get one vote to be where she is, right? So what's on the ballot is oligarchy, and that's what's been on the ballot most of my adult life. Oligarchy is on the ballot. And so, yeah, I agree to that. But I wanted to just go back to one point and say, like the Haitians that are in Springfield, Ohio, the big reason why is because of, again, a United States hegemony. Right now, the Biden administration just gave $400 million to a corrupt government in Kenya to send their thugs over to Haiti, because the people of Haiti are starting to come together to go against the puppet government and the oligarchy there. And the United States can't have that. So they just gave $400 to the corrupt government of Kenya to send their hitman goons over to Haiti to squelch that and to break them up. So that's what the Biden-Harris administration is doing right now as they import. So they used to export our good jobs, right, to third world countries and places like China, Bangladesh. Now what they're doing is they're importing workers into our country. And so it's to undermine. And Bernie Sanders, as recent as 2015, used to call that a Koch brothers scheme, having open borders as a Koch brothers scheme, right, to suppress our wages. So that's what I'll have to say about it.
Just one update on the races. It says here that Trump looks like he's going to win Pennsylvania. He's up 3.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
And it's over. And it's over.
Yeah. And he's also ahead in Wisconsin. So this is not looking good for Kamala Harris at all.
Libby, can I ask you both a question? Don't you find this astonishing that the fact that Donald Trump, while he just campaigned with Mike Pompeo of all people, which is just mind-blowing, don't you find it I'm going to have to rethink everything I thought about the deep state, that because obviously they are opposed to Donald Trump's administration and his candidacy, which is why the Hunter laptop, 51 CIA agents and all that stuff. Russiagate was a collusion of CIA, FBI, NSA, and the Clinton and the media. Doesn't it make you have to, like, why wouldn't they rig this election? Why would, if this happens, which is what it looks like it's going to happen, why would they allow this to happen? And do you think it's because why do you think?
Well, I don't think they can rig an election, but I do think what they can do is, box a president in so that he can't do anything, or he can't deviate from the, establishment consensus. That's what Russiagate was. Like, Russiagate, to whatever extent Trump had sincere beliefs about having good relations with Russia, he basically couldn't, because he was boxed in by being falsely accused of being a Russian agent. And he was also surrounded by neocons, and that was his choice to appoint them, because he's new to Washington. And he's also not like a Hugo Chavez, who, like, Chavez, like, governs based on, like, the mandate of his people, and he gets them involved in a democracy. Trump's not like a Democrat like that. He's not trying to, like, leverage his movement's power to do anything. He's a plutocrat, and he just goes with what people want in power. So Russiagate very easily snapped Trump into line on the issue of Russia, to the extent he was ever serious about having good ties with Russia. I'm not even sure if he was, but so that's how you manage democracy, is you just come up with these scams that have the intended effect. And that's what they did with Russiagate. And that's what they did again with the Hunter Biden laptop, which normalized the playbook where you just attribute anything you don't want, or anything that makes your preferred candidate look bad. You just blame Russia for it. And that helped Joe Biden win in 2020. And that helped, things go the way those intelligence officials wanted. So I'm sure if Trump wins again, and to the extent, if he opens up his mouth, if he says the wrong things, like he did in Syria, where he said, we're there to steal the oil, or if he orders U.S. troops out of Syria, they'll just ignore him like they did last time. And because he doesn't have any real political conviction and doesn't govern like someone like, say, Chavez would, where Chavez would mobilize his supporters around policies that, like, improve their lives, I think Trump will just fall in line that way, and they won't have to rig elections to accomplish what their goals are.
Well, I agree that the quote unquote deep state, or the national security state, will be able to find avenues for controlling Trump. And if Trump does anything positive, as he attempted to do with a peace initiative on the Korean Peninsula, uniting Korea and ending that war since 1950, will likely boomerang because of the presence of figures we might not have even heard of right now, but figures like Pompeo. And he lets them in the building again and again and again. But that, having said that, the national security state clearly favored Kamala. And that's, 700 former members of the CIA, DOD, the three-letter agencies openly endorsing her, the presence of the Cheneys. I mean, it was all very clear who they wanted for president. And so this is a repudiation of the quote unquote deep state and the role that they've played in American foreign policy, something that unfortunately Americans will continue to have very little influence over. It's a repudiation of corporate media. Fox News dropping Tucker Carlson means that they sacrificed their most populist pro-Trump voice, was one of the more anti-war figures within the Trump camp. And Fox News began to resemble more a standard kind of center-right network. So it's a repudiation of corporate media. It is a repudiation of resistance liberalism. This model has completely failed. Resistance liberalism believes in converging with the center-right, the Bush Republicans, and the national security state, having no principles, being Machiavellian, and doing whatever it takes to delegitimize Trump. It completely backfired. I think the Democrats should have been more progressive. It's a repudiation of what the Democratic Party is, by draping its support for neoliberalism and war in woke politics, in which just the average people are sick of it. Whatever you think of it, they want something that just speaks to everyone. I can just feel it when I go out there. So it's a total repudiation, if Donald Trump wins, of the full panoply of the establishment. But Aaron's right. When Donald Trump gets in, there will be ways to control him. One, it would be his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who, I mean, Jared Kushner is not just Abraham Accords, Tel Aviv. He's also Davos through Ivanka. And Elon Musk, I mean, he still wants to chip our brains. So it's unclear what a Trump administration will look like. My prediction is if Trump comes in, he's going to be in the war room the whole time with Bannon, just trying to survive the onslaught of insane attacks. And I do think there are unanswered questions about the assassination attempts. I can't fully point to any clear conspiracy. The second one seemed politically motivated. And one of the saddest person today, whatever Donald Trump does, is Vladimir Zelensky. And Aaron, I want to wrap soon, and I want to hear what Jimmy has to say. But, before we go, I also want to hear what you think about what this means for Ukraine. But Jimmy, those are my thoughts. And yeah, it was too big to rig. If it was a Trump blowout, the only way it could have been kind of tampered with is if the votes were too close. But in this country, you have poll watchers. The Trump people have got their eyes on everything. And it's just not going to be that easy to fix an election by the deep state. So yeah, Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad to, be proven wrong that the deep state doesn't have that kind of stranglehold over our elections, which I was sure they did. And this is, I think,
Had to block them.
Shows that they don't. So that's good. Do I have high hopes for the Trump administration going forward? Well, he's hinted that he won't. He doesn't want to decapitate Iran. He doesn't want to have even a war with them, most recently, and that he's going to end the war. Yeah, you're right about Zelensky. So those are all good things. The bad thing is that he wants to bring Elon Musk in to his administration and cut. And what Elon Musk is probably going to want to cut is Social Security and Medicare and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to cut the defense budget because Elon Musk gets money from the defense budget. And let's remember, under Donald Trump's presidency, that while the Democrats were saying he was a traitor to our country and working with Putin, they gave him an extra $132 billion in perpetuity for the rest forever for military spending. $132 billion extra dollars during Donald Trump's presidency got allocated to the war machine, and he didn't oppose it. In fact, he welcomed it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's bad news either way. All I'm saying is that's how bad the Democratic Party has gotten. I've had you talk about people. I've gotten into discussions with people who I've asked, you consider yourself a liberal. How do you not stand with the people of Palestine? How do you not have a red line? And they would, to a person, would come back to me, well, Donald Trump is going to go door to door and kick out immigrants from our country. And then they would say that Donald Trump is anti-trans and Donald Trump is anti-abortion. And I was like, so you're telling me you're really prioritizing immigration status for migrants. You're prioritizing abortion access and trans rights over the literal slaughter of women and children of the most vulnerable people in the world in Palestine. That sounds to me very self-centered, and that sounds like that what the liberals who voted against Donald Trump, what they're really doing was voting to ease their own mind so they didn't have to see Donald Trump every day. And they don't care if somebody, there's no right. If you can't vote against, as Shama Sawan has said, you got to make them pay a price for funding a genocide. And I agree with that 100%. And if you can't do that, then there is no red line. And that's what 40 years of voting for the lesser of two evil has gotten you. It's gotten you now that you actually literally are propping up and trying to get elected a person committing a genocide and committed to continuing a genocide. And so you're the moral superior of nobody. You can wag the finger at no one else. There's MAGA, Donald Trump, Pompeo. No one is Bolton. There's no one a worse person than you. If you are propping up Kamala Harris at this very moment, that there is no more evil leader, Viktor Orban, Putin. There's no one more evil than Kamala Harris in the world right now, because she is literally funding a genocide. So you tell me, is Viktor Orban funding a genocide? Is Tucker Carlson? Is Bobby Kennedy? No. You know who is Kamala Harris?
But Bobby Kennedy supports the genocide, and so does Donald Trump.
But I'm saying he's currently not funding it. Let's let them get in office and see what it. So Donald Trump says the same thing. People say, well, Donald Trump wouldn't be any better for them, and I'm like, well, if he becomes president and he continues this policy, then we'll deal with that then. But right now, you have to deal with Kamala Harris and the Biden administration currently carrying out a genocide, and you cannot reward that with your vote.
Right. Well, and that's the argument that Ali Abunimah made tonight as well, and that would because Kamala Harris refused to do anything to distance herself from Joe Biden, the president facilitating the genocide, that might cost her Michigan and play a big role in what looks like her looming loss tonight to Donald Trump.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. I really do. I hope, because, they say, well, Donald Trump did a Muslim ban. You guys are bombing Muslims. So which is, that's like a joke I've been doing for 4 years in my act. I guess bombing is better than banning. And so now they're being shown at the ballot box that no, bombing is actually worse than banning. And so thank God that someone has to pay a price electorally for committing a genocide.
Well, we'll see. It looks like they will, if they lose Michigan, especially where the Arab American vote is decisive.
Don't you think it's crazy, the people who say, well, we have to elect Kamala, she would be better for Palestine, and then remove her left? If you can't get her to disavow a genocide while she needs your vote, don't you think it's crazy that somehow you're going to have some kind of control over her after you give her your vote?
Yeah, I think it's pretty unlikely. But again, the thing is, you look at Donald Trump, and many people see 0% chance because of the people he's surrounded by and the things he says and his record in office. So my point there is the choice was really bleak. You had two pro-genocide candidates.
Bleak.
And, I don't think that voting Trump in is gonna make things any better for Palestine. And
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, no one's saying that, but this is a repudiation, and Michigan has gone up 5 points for Trump. It was considered a shocker in 2016 when Donald Trump won Michigan. Consider how many Lebanese Americans live in Michigan who are furious about this. Consider that Donald Trump campaigned in Dearborn at the end, at the precise moment when Kamala Harris was defending Liz Cheney on the tarmac. I mean, it feels like everything has been flipped upside down, but it is a repudiation. And if they want to take a lesson, the Democrats should take a lesson here. There was a red line established by a voting bloc, and they punished them. It does appear to be clear. Now, I could be proven wrong when everything's said and done, and we look at the granular details of what took place in Michigan and beyond, but it really does look like there is a new red line. The red line that the Democrats were running on was abortion. They were telling women to try to run up the vote of women, particularly single women, and say abortion is the main issue. It's the only issue, not the post-birth abortions that the Harris-Biden, Holocaust Harris, genocide Joe Biden administration is administering in the Gaza Strip to tens of thousands of children. And right now there are thousands of children under the rubble who we can't even hear their screams. Rescuers are blocked from even going to the rubble in northern Gaza. We're not hearing a peep out of Washington right now. So people are furious. And I always would ask liberal women, who support the Democrats, but who have been feminists, pro-choice activists. I'm pro-choice, whatever. There's no dispute about that being a right, like a civil liberty. But I would ask them, they would be sympathetic to what I was saying about Israel Palestine, and I would say, well, what if a Democratic nominee, maybe like in the future, or Kamala Harris herself, said, I respect the Dobbs decision to send abortion back to the states. Would you still vote for them? And they say, I don't know. I mean, they would never do it. They would never do it. Or they say no. And then I say, well, that's how we feel about this genocide being administered in the Gaza Strip. And they just don't know what to say there. So I think this represents a fundamental change. But of course, the Democrats will probably never learn.
Well, I hope
we don't want to assume that Palestine was a decisive factor across the country.
It's like a macro trend.
Yeah, it very may well be in Michigan, but overall, I mean, I agree with you guys. Like this, the contempt for neoliberal elites because of their condescending attitude toward most people, their refusal to talk about issues that impact people's lives, their embrace of all these obsessions that wasted everyone's time and made the world more dangerous, like Russiagate. I mean, there is widespread dissatisfaction with that, and I think Kamala Harris, just like Hillary Clinton in 2016, is paying the price tonight for just being in lockstep with neocons and neoliberals and not offering enough people much in the way that speaks to their daily lives and their real issues. And maybe Democrats will learn a lesson. Unlike they certainly didn't learn a lesson in 2016 from Hillary Clinton's loss. They even went more to the right. So maybe this time, if this result as it currently looks holds, things will be different.
So that, I guess that my question back to you is that, do you really think that the Democratic Party, which is completely controlled, not by the politicians at the DNC or inside Congress or the White House, it's completely controlled by the war machine and Wall Street and the donor class, 100%. That's who's making the decisions. Those are the people who decided that Joe Biden would not be the nominee, that it would be Kamala Harris. They're the same people who chose her first in 2020, right? So if you remember on Martha's Vineyard, the donor class got together and they coordinated her. That's our candidate. And then she couldn't get a vote and had to drop out before Iowa. So they had to shift to their next most reliable dupe, which has been Joe Biden. He's been a dupe of the war machine, the prison industrial complex, Wall Street, credit card industry, the whole deal. So that's why he became president, not because there was a popular groundswell, but because he was the most reliable dupe. So I don't think the Democratic Party will learn a lesson from that, because that's not about the Democratic Party. It's about the donor class, right? And so the donor class wants what they want. And they're not. So we're going to get more of the same. We're going to get another complete tool of the war machine and Wall Street and big pharma and in 2028 to oppose J.D. Vance. That's what we're going to get. And J.D. Vance, as you pointed out, is also funded by Peter Thiel and all those people. And so this is the world we're living in. And then there isn't a third party that's worth anything. The Green Party has proven over and over that they're completely controlled opposition, infiltrated and completely controlled. They couldn't even get on the New York ballot. LaRouche candidates got on the ballot in New York State. The Green Party couldn't. They've been around for 35 years. So that's just clear.
Well, Jimmy, they would say they face also. I mean, I didn't follow any of this. So
well, I did.
But they would say
I can tell you about it if you want to know.
Yeah, hold on. They would say they faced all these lawsuits that when they tried to get, that the Democrats put a lot of money into fighting them, into basically suing them in courts off of the ballots, right? That's what they would say.
So the LaRouche Party fought, Diane Sayre faced the same kind of opposition, the same kind of ballot restrictions and goalposts she had to jump over, and she got on the ballot. So I've found people. I've heard from people on the ground in Wisconsin. Who isn't there? The Green Party. Isn't on the ground. So it's just anyway. And I'm not here to beat up on the Green Party. I'm in theory in favor of the Green Party. My problem is that they've been thoroughly infiltrated, if not completely invented by the deep state to be controlled opposition. So that's the
we'll
problem.
Disagree on that, but whatever.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I have my own criticisms of them. I just if we could go for another 3 hours, I could lay them out.
Okay.
But we can. I'll talk to you on your show, or we can do this again post-election. I guess let's get your final thoughts. I mean, it looks like there's no path to victory for Kamala Harris. And, if anyone wants to know how I feel about that, just rewind to Ali Abunima's final statement, because
I think that's
I
great.
think it is richly deserved for them. And how dare they take us for granted? Michigan it keeps trending away from her in ways we've never seen before. And it's obvious that there's a protest vote there. But also, how dare they, again, I don't think Donald Trump is going to reverse any of these trends at all. But it's just, how dare they do so many things that we thought the Democratic Party was not supposed to stand for, like sell off all the jobs of their own constituents, all their blue collar constituents, and then go and say, you better thank a union member. Like that's what Trump's going to be saying. Because they're just so pissed off. You just sent all their jobs away with NAFTA. Then you send the guy out who did it to piss on the heads of Arabs and Muslims and say that Jews have a right to Judea and Samaria because they were there in the Bible a long time ago in the middle of Detroit. I mean, how dare you?
What are they thinking? When I saw Bill Clinton do that, you're talking about, right? Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I just was dumb. I was just like, is everybody in the Democratic Party hate Kamala Harris and want to make sure she loses? Is that why Joe Biden called half the country garbage? Is that why Bill Clinton's out there telling you about it was mind blowing to me. And so my final word on that is that thank God finally, the Democratic Party has to pay for their malfeasance. Thank God finally that enough voters woke up to realize that they're voting for their oppressors. And not that the Republican or Donald Trump is not gonna, but finally somebody made them pay a price for that. Thank God. And so what I look forward to is the corporate media spin on all this. And what they're gonna, of course, blame it on racism. They're already blaming it. I saw on CNN, they already blamed it on sexism, that black men and white men won't vote for a female, which is garbage, 100% garbage. And we know that. And so, I don't know what this means going forward, but, the overwhelming majority of Americans are begging for a third party. They want an independent party. What can one happen? I don't know. The lawfare that's used against them, the way they do to keep them off the ballot, the media is 100% against them always. They try to pretend they're Russian bots and all that stuff. I don't know if there's an electoral strategy going forward to represent workers, represent students, represent anti-war movement. I don't really know if there is one. But I think we need to remember, the important thing is to remember that the MAGA voters are not your enemy. The MAGA voters want most of the same things you do. They want to end the wars, right? They want good jobs. They want healthcare that doesn't bankrupt them. And we all want those things. So they want to clean up our food supply. They want to clean up our water supply. They want to get the corruption out of the FDA and the CDC. They want a lot of the same things that we want. And don't fall for that trick by the oligarchy through their corporate media to make you think that your enemy is your neighbor or your enemy is half the country. I'm just so sick and tired of politicians saying that they want to save the country while they're hating half the country. That's just complete garbage and bullshit. And we have to remember that the MAGA voters are not our enemy. MAGA voters are our neighbors who are hurting under the same oligarchy that we are, and we share a common enemy, and that common enemy is the oligarchy, and that all the identity politics and all the hubbub over immigrant, that is all to take our eye off the ball and have us fight against each other instead of having our eye on our common enemy, which is the establishment and the oligarchy. Let's remember that those same people who fund Donald Trump and fund Kamala Harris all work together behind the scenes, right? They play us against each other. That's the big message I hope everybody carries going forward the next 4 years. Don't let them play us against each other. Let us come together against them.